From the Aero Sports Tennessee home office along the banks of the Stones River in the heart of Rutherford County, this is the Coach Will KRIESKY Show, a weekly showcase of highlights, interviews, and insights from Riverdale head football coach Will KRIESKY. Now here's your host and play-by-play voice of the Warriors, Chris Bozen.
Williams will punt out of his own end zone. Man back deep near midfield for the Warriors. Punt is blocked. It's blocked by the Warriors, and Riverdale will recover it in the end zone for a touchdown as the Warriors fall on it, and it is Gael Lara. Gael Lara, the junior linebacker, 6'2", 220-pounder, recovers it. I didn't see who blocked it, Ethan, but it's 6 points on the board for the Warriors as special teams comes up with a big play.
Well, we've already got our special teams play of the game right there. A blocked punt turning into a touchdown. That's a huge momentum setter for the Warriors to come away with a special team score this early on in the ballgame.
Well, welcome to episode 8 of the Coach Will KRIESKY Show here on Aero Sports Tennessee. I'm Chris Bozen, joined once again by Riverdale head coach Will KRIESKY. And Coach, welcome. Congrats on a 35-7 victory at Stewart's Creek Friday night. The Warriors improved to 3-2 overall, but most importantly, moving to 2-1 in Region 3 6A. There's a lot to discuss from this game now as we're at the midway point of the season already. What were your overall impressions of Friday's win?
You know, I thought our kids started off really well. I thought they did a really good job, just starting the game and being able to execute, like you said, that punt block, was huge in the first quarter, and it was big. It set the tone for the game, and Aiden Edmonds, with the block, and then Gael with the scoop and score, and it was just good momentum start and good momentum setter for the game. And then I thought the offense came out and were able to do some things and jump on top and be able to move the ball. And then Gavin, I thought, played one of his better halves of the year, and thought he played really well.
Yeah. That's a Stewart's Creek team that they were playing without their starting quarterback who had been injured. They're playing without their big running back. And, I mean, to lose your two big offensive weapons, I know Coach Caudill really had his back against the wall. I thought Davis did some good things for them. Just inexperience maybe showed up. And that's a defense, though, that they're aggressive, they're quick, and they present a challenge themselves on the defensive side. So I thought you played probably the best game of the year, I think.
Yeah, I think, like you said, just overall, each side of the ball, I thought each side of the ball played really well. And again, offensively started really well in the first half and did a great job. And, again, defense was flying around. Stewart's Creek they are missing some valuable pieces, but also they still got guys around them. I thought offensively they were able to move the ball at times and kind of outnumbered us. And Coach Caudill does a great job with the offense and trying to mismatch numbers. And then offensively, I thought that Gavin was able to step up in the pocket, make some plays. I thought the O-line did a better job of protection. So, yeah, we're moving in the right direction. We're not to the status we want to be yet, but we're moving. We're taking steps forward, and that's what you like to see going into finishing up week 5.
I agree with you 100%. One of the things we said during our pregame with Ethan Markham and I was it was time to start seeing a build on the previous week. And Laverne, obviously Laverne is in a rebuilding situation, but it was time to start going, okay, how do we just take another step forward and not take those steps backwards? And I thought there was improvement, and I think when you look back all the way to game 1 against Knoxville Catholic, I think there's been a lot of improvement.
Yeah, like you said, we're finally getting offensive line continuity there. Losing LB was huge. Jacob Vaughn and Chris Peters are settling down in their roles more. And then the receivers are starting to get comfortable, and Gavin's getting comfortable with the receivers. And everybody's just starting to understand each other on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, the guys are still playing hard and flying around. And Coach Rail's able to install more stuff as they pick it up each week. And that's only going to help us down the road.
We've got some highlights of some of those new pieces that he's been able to install this week. But another guy that I don't want to forget to mention as we talk about the offensive line, because I do think that this was probably their best game as you've been kind of moving those pieces around. The work that your center, Dakari King, does. I notice him, pre-snap, he's calling a lot of things out. He's not a senior himself right now, but he has a lot of responsibility on that offensive line.
Yeah, Kari, he's a 2-year starter. He came in last year, was starting. We had a guy that got ejected in the Smyrna game, week 1, and then Kari had to come in the next week and be the center. We had to move LB, we had to move some pieces around. And Kari did so well in his start that he's never been taken out. So we moved pieces around for him, because that's just how good he was as a sophomore. And, he's just been constant in that role. And like you said, he's kind of the leader up there, kind of the quarterback, makes the calls, make sure everybody's communicating, make sure everybody's on the same page. Because at the end of the day, if they're all wrong, the play's right. You know what I mean? Like, if one's doing one thing, another's doing another thing, so Kari's got to make sure they're all on the same page.
And that's a bigger task when you've got a sophomore left tackle, and that's been the piece that I think has kind of helped solidify things, is that you find Alex Judd out at left tackle, but that's a big step up for him out at that position.
Yeah, it's real big. Alex has the body and the measurables. He just got to grow up a little bit, and he's getting better. And he had a really tough summer camp and didn't grow up, and we just really didn't know he was going to have to grow up this fast, this quick, with LB being out. We were hoping to get him a lot of reps this year, but, just with LB, just in different types of situations. But again, he stepped up, and luckily he worked hard and did everything he was supposed to this offseason and throughout the year. And now he put himself in a position to start and have a successful year.
Well, as we jump into the highlights here, we saw our special teams play of the game there. That puts you up 7-0 just midway through the first quarter. And then you come right back and we get our defensive play of the game, which is a tip drill interception. We'll take a look at that here. R.C. Davis works from the gun. 2 receivers left, 1 to his right. Got a back to his left side. It's tipped up in the air, and it's going to be picked off by the Warriors at the 25-yard line. The Warriors intercept it. Coming away with it that time looks like Jeremy Thompson, the 5'10" sophomore linebacker. And the defense gets another turnover, Ethan, and it sets Riverdale up in excellent field position, 1st and 10 from the 21-yard line.
That's just a great job by the defensive line, active hands.
And I believe it was Julius Malden got a hand up there in that lane. But you've had success at that this year, getting some hands up in those passing lanes, and that makes a big difference up front.
Yeah, those guys, Coach Martin and Coach Fuqua, do a good job coaching those guys up and teaching them, the little details of the defensive line and make sure they get their hands up. And Thompson was a product of that and was able to get an interception, and he made a real big play. I thought Thompson had one of his better games of the year also. He was our defensive player of the game, and I think, he finally played up to the standard that we're holding to him. He hadn't played terrible the first 4 games. He's just not played up to our standard that we want him to play to. And, Thompson was one that last year he practiced as a freshman. He practiced every day with the varsity, and he still would play some freshman games, but we already were trying to prepare him for this year because we knew that he'd be vital for us.
And Coach, look, I know we're focused on 2025. We're focused on the games in front of us, but a theme that keeps reemerging here is sophomore, junior. This remains a younger team that's growing up and getting varsity experience that's going to pay dividends in the coming years.
Yeah, it is, and we got to keep teaching these guys and letting them grow. And, they're going to make mistakes, but let's correct the mistakes and let's move forward. Let's learn from mistakes. And, as long as we're not having to correct the mistakes each week. But, yeah, a lot of these guys are getting back. Like you said, like you're seeing them grow up each week.
Absolutely.
Week, they're gaining a lot of experience and understanding the speed of the game, understanding things better, where I need to line up, how I need to line, just the nuances that you don't think of, just maybe widen the foot out, to help make a play or studying a little bit more film to understand what the offense is going to run at you. Same thing offensive wise, the receivers, really paying attention to detailed things on film while watching the DBs and knowing how they're going to run the routes, and all that starting to slowly come together, and they're understanding why we spend so much time in the film room.
Well, and no matter what you do in practice, until the lights are on, until it's another team out there, they don't really understand the speed of the game, the impact of the hits and things. But once they remember, it's still just football, that really helps build confidence too. Yeah,
it does. And then them having some success out there, and that keeps building on their confidence. And those guys keep working hard. And yes, like you said, just they get the confidence every game, every rep. They get more and more confident.
We go on to our next highlight, and it was how you capped off after that turnover, a 3-play, 21-yard drive, used just 58 seconds off the clock, and it put you up 14-0 at the 4:12 mark of the first quarter when JV took it into the end zone.
Reynolds is wide on the right side. Vaughn on the left side of Hampton. Takes the handoff from Hampton. Vaughn up the middle. Vaughn into the end zone. Touchdown. Jacob Vaughn with 4:12 to play here in the opening quarter. Jacob Vaughn from 7 yards out gives Riverdale a 13-0 lead. The extra point from Miles Weaver is pending. That's a good drive, and Jacob Vaughn finishes on the ground, Ethan.
Great blocking there. He finds the gap, immediately identifies it, cuts inside to make a man miss, and scores a touchdown.
Noticed in that play, Coach, we just talked about Alex Judd, the left tackle, got to the second level, put a block on a linebacker that really opened that up for Vaughn to get into the end zone. And that's something that we saw in preseason when LB was still there, the running lanes between the tackles, but it had maybe gone away as the offensive line adjusted to one another. It's nice to see that come back.
Yeah, that looked really good, and Eli Clark did a good job washing his guy down, and then Judd was able to climb up to the second level, and I thought, Jacob did a great job with his vision and making that cut and getting the end zone. I guess we need to – his little celebration wasn't very good. I guess we need to correct that. But
well, you may have stumbled on that turf a little bit.
Yeah. I didn't say. I like all those camera views Stewart's Creek have. You can see a little bit. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, let's go ahead and give them a shout out as well. We were on a simulcast with Stewart's Creek TV this week, so we were working in conjunction with their students. And yeah, they do about a 4 or 5 camera setup. Guys down on the field, we appreciate them letting us use that coverage for the coaches show this week. But they do a really nice job over there. And I know they're helping Chris Martin get things rolling at Riverdale as the years go along. We've got some fun things coming up there as well.
That's exciting. I'm glad that y'all are able to work together. That stuff looks really good.
Nice. Thank you very much. We talked a little bit about the new offensive weapons that are coming in, and the next guy is one of those. We've seen him a lot on special teams, not so much on offense, but he had a nice game this week, and that's Zayden Jones.
Here's 3rd and 5 from the 30. Out of the gun, Hampton looking left. Now fires to Zayden Jones. Jones has it, and a first down to extend the drive. Zayden Jones comes up with a big reception there, Ethan, and it'll keep this drive alive.
When you take Zayden and move him from special teams, where he still is, returning punts and things like that, to get him over into the offensive, is that just a matter of, hey, we've got some things settled down, we've got some time to incorporate in there now?
No, so Zayden, he's never gone away from the offensive side. He always gets reps on the offensive side. But just early on in the year, and he's dealt with some injuries in the past, and we wanted to make sure his reps were not just too much workload on his body. We had a lack of depth, with Ote being out in the secondary, so we were a little thin at the corner. So we were just using him just strictly on defense early on in the season, and now that Ote's coming back, and Braylon Burns is getting some work at corner, and he still has always worked defense, but he's getting more work. So, we're kind of moving some guys around to get pieces because, Zaylen is, I don't know if everybody realizes, but he had one of his best games, our last game of the season last year. He caught over 150 yards in that playoff game against Oakland. So, he's always been a receiver for us, played well for us at receiver. But, now that the season's coming along and everybody's getting comfortable, everybody's in game type conditioning, we're going to use him a few times each half this year.
How valuable is that to you at the 6A level, Coach? I mean, at smaller schools, we see a lot of the guys having to play 2 or 3 ways. But particularly, you've got over 100 guys on the roster. That depth can be a benefit. But still, when you've got athletes, the like of Zayden and some of the other ones you've got on your team, how valuable is that to you?
I mean, that's huge. Hudson Fuke was another one that could play offense. He could play slot receiver. He could play running back, and he's another guy that's just, in an emergency case, he'd go in. He would either run the ball or be a receiver. So, it's huge, to have guys that can play dual, that understand the game like Zayden and Hudson are really, really both smart young men. And so, both sides of the ball, I feel like Coach Rail's very complex and Coach Barnes is complex, and they're able to pick that up. And they do that by the reps they get in practice and how serious they take those reps in practice. Because they're, if they're not paying attention or halfway participating on the other offensive side of the ball, they're not going to know what to do. And then they really go in and dive into the film and study to make sure they're lining up right and knowing all the responsibilities.
Into the end of the first quarter, you wind up getting a big play between Gavin Hampton and Luke Tritch, your freshman receiver, a 55-yarder. It caps a 5-play, 75-yard drive and puts you up 21-0. We'll take a look at that big touchdown connection here. Hampton goes out and talks to his receiver on the left side. He's got 3 receivers wide right. 5 seconds on the play clock. Claps his hands. Does Hampton in the pocket. In the pocket, he's got all kinds of time. He'll throw on the run. Wide open. Luke Tritch at the 25, at the 20, at the 15, the 10, the 5. Luke Tritch into the end zone from 55 yards away. Hampton scrambled, and somehow, some way, the freshman Luke Tritch found green artificial surface and took it into the end zone. The Warriors increased their lead now at the end of the first quarter. Riverdale 20, Stewart's Creek nothing. Extra point from Miles Weaver is on the way. You can't let Luke Tritch get free like that, Ethan.
Absolutely not. I mean, he's fast. He's got a lot of speed, but what a job by Hampton to be able to get out of pressure, to get some room on the run, make that throw across his body, and deliver it accurately to the open man. Looked like just a bit of a breakdown in coverage that let Tritch get free, but that's a huge touchdown strike for the offense.
And Luke picked up, I believe, another offer this weekend. I think a Washington State opportunity there, and it's just a freshman who just turned 15. I mean, his future's really opening up for him.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job, and he works really hard. And I've said that plenty of times before. You know, all his work he does outside of us, you know, really has really helped him. And he's really focused on his goals and trying to accomplish things. You know, and I've really been impressed with his growth also each week. You know, he's really not playing like a freshman, so it's been impressive what he's been able to do.
The next drive that I want to go to, Coach, it's really, I said at the end of the game, my favorite drive of the game. It's the 96-yarder, right? It was, you know, up to that point in this contest, you had short fields to work with. You got the punt block, you got the turnover. But as we think about building, it's can you put together a sustained drive? And you do. It goes for over 4 minutes, 96 yards. How did you feel as this drive unfolds before we take a couple of look at these highlights?
You know, I thought the guys, you know, obviously did really good up front. You know, I just like the way Gavin commanded the offense. That's what you want to see. You want to see him be in control, making sure guys are getting lined up, making sure guys know their responsibility, make sure the O-lineman gets their call. So I felt, you know, I liked, like we talked about earlier, his growth. I liked seeing him being able to command that offense for over 4.5 minutes and be able to control them and then be able to make the right reads consistently, you know, and making the right throws consistently. And so I thought that was big.
There was a big play during the drive. It was a 4th and 10 from the 36-yard line of Stewart's Creek. No doubt in your mind, no thought about what you do there. You were going to go for it the whole time?
You know, I was kind of back and forth, but again, you know, sometimes when you feel it, you know, I felt like the guys were in the zone and I just, you know, wanted to roll the dice and take a chance. And, you know, again, when you got confidence in your guys, you can make those calls aren't tough calls to make.
Well, let's take a look at that highlight right here. It's the 4th down conversion on a completion from Hampton to Braylon Burns. They'll shift Vaughn to the right side now of Hampton. Tritch is on the near side on the right side. One single receiver on the short side of the field, the left side. Hampton in the pocket. He's going to dump it off, has a receiver across the 20. Across the 15, it's Braylon Burns. And just a very calm pass there, Ethan. Burns came across the middle. That took a long time to develop, but the offensive line gave Hampton time, and he was able to find Burns with the connection.
Great poise by Hampton there. Sometimes it's frustrating as a quarterback. You're waiting on the routes to develop, and a lot of guys will kind of start to jump on something early. They might try and take off with it. They might try and force a throw. Great poise by Hampton to sit back, wait for the route to develop, put an accurate throw down, and they get all the way down just outside the 10.
That patience there to allow that kind of drag route across the middle to open up was in part because the offensive line did a great job, and Gavin trusted that offensive line to allow that connection to come through.
Yeah, and you like to see that. You like to see that on a 4th down call. Nobody's panicking. Nobody's trying to do too much. Everybody was just trying to do their job, and that's what we preached to them in film on Sunday. You know, this play worked. You know, and Coach wanted to go for it because he felt like everybody during that drive, everybody was just doing their job and everybody was trusting each other. You just do your job. And they saw that drive worked because nobody was overcompensating. Nobody was trying to help another guy out or trying to do too much that would cause, you know, themselves not to do their right responsibility. So I thought that drive went really well. And again, I like the way we capped it off. And Braylon Burns made a great catch. You know, Braylon's a kid you root for, great kid. never complains, never whines, doesn't have an excuse for anything. He just shows up and works. And so I was really proud of him making that catch and advancing the ball. He's just been a consistent player for us for the past 2 years. And, I don't know if he ever has any bad days. And you enjoy coaching kids like that.
Sure, and you talk about how it caps off 11 plays, 4 minutes, 28 seconds off the clock, with 4:19 to play in the second quarter. You cap it off with the athlete, your quarterback, Gavin Hampton.
Don't call him that.
3rd and goal from the Stewart's Creek 2-yard line. This drive started back at the Riverdale 4-yard line with 8:47 on the clock. We're down to 4:27 now on the second quarter clock. Hampton in the shotgun. Now he'll scramble. Hampton spin move at the 1 into the end zone. And the athlete, Gavin Hampton, scrambles for a 2-yard touchdown. He takes it into the end zone, and Gavin Hampton making me eat my own words, calling him a pro-style quarterback. When the lane is there, he can run it, and he does here with 4:19 to go in the first half. Riverdale extends its lead. Warriors now in front 27-0 over the Red Hawks. Extra point from Miles Weaver is pending. That's just good downfield vision for Hampton, and he took what the defense offered.
Hampton with just a great drive in general. A lot of great throws, a lot of great reads.
Coach, have a little fun with Gavin there after our show last week talking about his pocket passing. But it is important that a quarterback has the ability to, when the lane is there, pick up that first down, or in this case, the touchdown, by just taking advantage of what the defense is offering.
Yeah, it was good. He went through his reads and saw the lane open and took off and ran, and he did do a good job. And, Gavin is capable of doing that. I just don't like to see it too often, but he has some ability, and he can run. He's not a Lamar Jackson, but, he can run a little bit, but he does. And when he sees it, he was open, and he knew that he could get in the end zone. He trusted himself, and I'm not mad at him for that play.
And again, Coach, I think as we keep talking about this midway of the season, how everyone has grown in the development, it looks like the game has slowed down a little bit for Gavin, right? We go back to the Knoxville Catholic game, his first ever start as a varsity player, and maybe that energy, those nerves, everything seems a little quicker. It seems like it's slowed down for him this week.
Yeah, he's starting to, like you said, starting to understand the game, figure out the speed, and understand the defenses more. You really learn a lot by taking reps, and he's learned each week in each game, not only about the team, but about himself, what he's capable of doing, what he does well, what he doesn't do well, and unfortunately, sometimes you just got to get those game reps to figure yourself out and to figure what you can do best. And, that's what he's done, and he's growing, and he's learning what throws he can make. He's understanding pocket presence more, and he's going through his reads and progressions better. And, I can't say enough of how him and Coach Barnes work well together, trying to implement a game plan and trying to implement the offense and trying to make sure we have success on the offensive side.
A few more highlights to get to here this week before we start talking about Columbia Central coming in for this homecoming contest. At the end of the first half, you're kind of backed up. The clock's winding down. It looks like, maybe you want to just take it into the locker room and end things up. But Jacob Vaughn, who got shut down on the big play a week ago, decided otherwise on a call on 3rd and 15. He breaks off a big touchdown run as our offensive play of the game.
And on the play clock, 16 on the game clock here on this 3rd down. Hampton will let it come down inside the 5 seconds on the play clock. He'll hand it off to Vaughn. Vaughn bounces it out to the right corner. Vaughn looking for a blocker. Vaughn still on his feet across the 20, 25, 30. Look out. Jacob Vaughn at the 40. Cuts back into the middle of the field at the 50. Jacob Vaughn, he gets a block out there on the corner from Burns. Jacob Vaughn to the far corner. Jacob Vaughn into the end zone. There are no flags down. Jacob Vaughn, 89-yard touchdown run on 3rd and 15 from the 11-yard line.
Wow.
Jacob Vaughn came to the near sideline, found some blockers. They were just going to try to run out the clock, Ethan, and just run him up the middle. He bounced it right, then went all the way back to the far sideline as time has expired in the first half. They extend the lead 34-0. Extra point here from Weaver is up, and it is good as Miles Weaver puts the exclamation point on the 89-yard touchdown run by Jacob Vaughn on a 3rd and 15 carry. 35 points on the board for Riverdale. That is the end of the first half.
That big run, 89-yard touchdown, a lot of it individual effort there from Jacob. You see him break through a tackle there. A guy grabs his shirt and things. But I also love the downfield
We gave him a block on it, but Braylon kind of put his hands up like, I'm just going to get in your way. I'm not going to touch you.
Well, that was a smart football play. That's something we wouldn't have done week one. And that was very smart because Braylon wanted to make sure he just got in his way and there was no chance for them to call a penalty on him. So he just got in his way, threw his hands up, and that's all Jacob needed to get around him and to be able to score that touchdown. And, that play happens because of Burns. If Burns don't get in his way or if he attacks him and gets a holding call or something, that play comes back. So, that's what's impressive, that there was no penalties on that play. Jacob did a great job seeing the run lane, making his cut, and then cutting it back inside. And, that's what you get with him. He wants to score every time he touches the ball. I mean, he wants to score. And, I thought a couple plays earlier that we were going to have a big 2-minute drive. Riley Talley started off with the completion and went downfield. They called a holding on Jacob Vaughn on that play, but Jacob Vaughn ran a route. So, I was getting on him. And then we went back and watched film, and so I guess maybe it was somebody up front they were looking at. But again, it was good to see because I thought we did make some good plays, and then that holding call set us back. But then just able to finish that off right before half, that was huge. That just shows that these guys are trying to finish, and they're not going to take any plays off because they could have halfway done that play and let Jacob get tackled and moved on to half. But they finished their blocks, and Jacob was able to make some moves and cuts and get in the end zone.
When you came back out from the locker room, the second half, it's 35-0. We're in that running clock situation. How do you feel about the running clock, particularly when it's, I understand the mercy rule nature of it, but does it limit, and how do you feel about it in terms of you're trying to get some subs in to get some time and get some development? Where do you stand on it?
Yeah, it's kind of tough, but like you said, I couldn't get all the guys rotated in and all the reps. Jackson Porter and Guy Allard, they got some reps, but I don't think they got enough. Those are two kids that you see on every special teams that's playing really hard on special teams, both those guys. And the way they play for special teams is how they practice every day. So, they're just right there. They're right there behind those guys, and they're both behind seniors. And they're both, be starters for us next year. But, you want those guys like that, because those guys we don't put on JV because they're so valuable for the varsity. So, that those reps late in the game are what they need. And so they are on some packages and they do get some reps on defense, but you want guys like that to get more reps.
One of the backups that did get some significant minutes in the second half was Chris Peters. I thought he had maybe his best game of the season. I want to take a look at back-to-back highlights here. First in the ground game, and then really a terrific catch.
Ball is on the near hash. 3 receivers wide to the left, 1 to the near side here. Takes the snap. He's going to hand it off Chris Peters. Chris Peters across the 30, 35, 40 to the far sideline, 45, and then lower his shoulder and plow over the defender as he laid into Kamarian Hill, the 5'10 senior who came up. First and 10 at the Riverdale 43. To that far hash now. Hampton will keep 3 receivers wide to the right, 1 to the far side, the left side. And Peters on his left hip. Hampton. Short drop, going to throw down the field, single coverage, looking for Peters. He drops it in the bucket, and Chris Peters hauls it in. The defender over there in single coverage was Eli Murray, I believe. But what a catch for Peters there, and a heck of a throw from Hampton.
I mean, that is an insane throw by Gavin Hampton, especially just a great job as a teammate there to trust your running back to make that catch. Typically, you don't throw a deep pass to your running back unless he's wide open, busted coverage. But a great throw, drops it right there in the breadbasket, and an even better job by Peters to make that catch falling down.
That is a 37-yard gain on 1st and 10, all the way to the Stewarts Creek 20-yard line.
Your running backs are weapons in the passing game as well. We've seen Vaughn catch a lot out of the backfield. Chris makes a great catch there, and the throw from Gavin is just immaculate.
Yeah, they did a good job. Chris, again, he's a receiver. We moved to running back, and he's done a great job. The first half was kind of weird. Like we scored on the it was short. We had short side of the field, and we had that block punt. And so Peters did not get the reps I intended for him to get in the first half. But, he came in the second half. And again, he's another guy that understands it and gets the game and knew we didn't have a whole lot of offensive reps. And, he came in and we let him play the third quarter, and he did really well and caught the ball well, ran the ball well, and was able to make a few blocks. So, he's another one that's just getting more comfortable with his role also.
We'll take one final look at a highlight here, and it comes from Chris. It could have been a bigger gain, but the sideline got him.
I'd say you're going to see them keep the ball on the ground mostly as well.
Rolling looks to hand it off to Peters. Rolling gets hammered to the ground. Peters with running room across the 30, 35, 40, but he steps out of bounds. He had nobody with him, Chris Peters, but he was on this near sideline, and he just did not quite walk the tightrope well enough, Ethan. He steps out of bounds at the 39 to negate probably 20 or 30 more yards that he could have picked up.
Yeah, he could have got in the end zone. He got to do a better job on the sidelines. And but, I was really impressed and pleased with how he came out in his effort and how he ran the ball. And, again, we just talked about it. He's getting a little bit more comfortable each week with his role and understanding it more and understanding the responsibility that backs are supposed to do.
As we leave Stewart's Creek behind, turn our attention now to homecoming, and we get to go out of region play. Columbia Central, the Lions come to town. They're 2-1. They had to get a no contest in that game with Independence on that rainy weekend in Middle Tennessee. What do you know about Columbia coming in, and what do you think that they do well that's going to present you a challenge?
Well, they're big up front. Their O-line, D-line, both their fronts are very big. So, both our lines have to be ready to play and come to play and be physical. Their quarterback, he's an athlete. He does a great job getting the ball downfield, but he's really good with the ball in his hands. He's kind of like the Father Ryan quarterback, can run and scramble, do a lot of good things. Kind of also like the Laverne quarterback. Kind of what we've seen in the past. He's just an athlete and runs around with the ball and throws it well. Throws it to his receivers. They got a lot of athletes on the field. Number 5, he running back runs the ball really hard, really physical running back, and then when he gets in space, he can take off. And their secondary, flies around and does a really good job. So again, we got to be prepared and ready to go. They are playing quite a bit of young kids, but like us, you see those young kids growing up each week.
They are averaging almost 32 points a game, Coach. I mean, they fell to Dixon County 27-17, beat Battle Creek 51-12, lost to Marshall County 27-21, and then won in their region opener last Friday against Lawrence County 38-22. So they can put points on the board. Your defense has been holding teams down, allowing just over 10 points a game, which I know makes you pleased, but that should be an interesting battle this week between their offense, your defense.
Yeah, because I was really impressed. You just said that, the Marshall County score, and I've watched that game over and over. And Coach Osteen's a phenomenal football coach. They have a returning Mr. Football quarterback. So I was really interested in that game. And Columbia, was able to fly around and be physical and run with those kids at Marshall County. And it was a really good ball game, close game, and came down to the wire. And I know that's kind of a rivalry game too, but it's pretty impressive of what they were able to do to keep up with Marshall County and play with them all night.
As we look at our region standings now, midway through this season, Blackman and Oakland sit atop the standings at 2-0. You're currently in third at 2-1. Siegel's at 2-1. Rockville's at 2-1. Smyrna's at 1-2. Stewart's Creek and Laverne sit at 0-3. And we said it on the broadcast this week, Coach. In many ways, that was a must-win game for Stewart's Creek, right? Just in terms of making the postseason because of the teams they had lost to. Now, not having that tiebreak against Siegel, against Rockville, against you. And your words really are exactly true. The playoffs started as soon as this region's schedule started.
Yes, every week, every week's big, every week matters, and you got to fight your tail off because you don't want to be at the end just waiting on somebody else's results for your results. You want to be able to control it, and when it gets out of your hands, you never know. There was one year we all went, I think it was 2017, we all finished tied there, Riverdale, Blackman, and Oakland, it was Oakland was 1, Riverdale, Cookeville, and Blackman all tied for second, and we fell all the way to 4th because it was out of our hands, and it was tiebreakers, and we went to this tiebreaker, that tiebreaker, and ultimately we lost that, and I don't like that. I don't like putting it in somebody else's hands or rules, and I want us to be able to take care of business.
With it being homecoming week, extra things on the slate this week that you got to keep the kids focused from, any extra events you're trying to, keep them steered in the right direction on?
Yeah, we got a little faculty dodgeball versus kids today. And, we got a little faculty student body, like a faculty frenzy to do a bunch of games tomorrow. Today, and then you got your regular pep rally and they do a big little lunch with food trucks on Friday. But, I usually take the kids and we either go to the movies or this year we got a nice new auditorium and watch a movie in there and hang out. and do that, enjoy, just to kind of get away from all that and let the student body enjoy it. And they got a lot of rough food. Our kids be eating a lot. I don't want to eat them back. I don't want them eat them back too bad on Fridays. But with all the food trucks and ice cream trucks and all that. But they'll still have fun, and we do another big homecoming event during the basketball season, so they get to enjoy all the activities. Today I'm a little worried about the dodgeball game, and I got all my kids 4 block and trying to make sure we get things done because this week we're battling the weather. With practice and trying to make sure getting outside. We were able to get outside for a little bit on Monday. Yesterday we got the entire time, and I'm hoping that we can get in the window today and get some time outside.
Well, then, Coach, you got a short week coming up because next week we play on Thursday night hosting Smyrna before fall break, and so that kind of changes everything up. It's a busy time as we get to the second half of the season.
It is. It's a real busy time, but it's fun. It's enjoyable, man. The kids are having fun. The kids are practicing hard, and with Riverdale, there's one thing Riverdale loves. They love their homecoming. So, it's big events all day Friday, and Miss Blair administration and Miss Proctor and Mr. Rainey, they do a great job hosting all these events and making sure these student bodies have an awesome time. And
the weather. Prevented one of the younger teams from getting to play, but I know JV and freshmen kind of winding their season down. You got playoffs coming back from fall break, but what's their situation?
So the freshmen won again. They beat Rockville 41-0. They're undefeated. They play Laverne freshmen next week. Laverne does not have a JV team, so our JV season is over, unfortunately. We tried to get that game in with Rockville, but the lightning and stuff in our area was going to deter that. So, we just sent those kids home so they get to practice the next day. And then the freshmen did a great job. And if they got to take care of business on next Monday, and then if they do that, they'll be the number 1 seed. If not, there's a bunch of ties and that'll move them around and things like that. So, but then the playoffs will start the Monday after we get back from fall break. So those kids will come in on Thursday and Friday with our varsity kids and get some practice in and then get ready to play.
Well, I look forward to Friday, Coach. We'll be on the air. 6 o'clock, a replay of this Coach Will KRIESKY show. 6:35, we'll be live with our countdown to kickoff from Phil Watts Tomahawk Stadium. And then 7 o'clock kick for homecoming against Columbia. I wish you the best of luck in that one. And looking forward to the second half of this year.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you for having us and appreciate all that you do for us.
Absolutely. For Coach Will KRIESKY, I'm Chris Bozen. Remember, Warrior fans, be proud, be bold, be brave, and ever loyal. We'll see you next time here on the Coach Will KRIESKY show. Good night.
This is the Coach Will KRIESKY Show, a weekly showcase of highlights, interviews, and insights from Riverdale head football coach Will KRIESKY. This is Riverdale football. All hail.